So one way that I think I've learned to survive as an INFP personality type, particularly in workplaces, is by giving the impression that I am somewhat reliable. However, I would say there's a bit of a danger zone for INFPs, and it can be at any age, but I've seen it happen a lot between 18 and 21, where they're almost a bit of a write-off, because INFPs are in a very interesting state. I guess everyone's in an interesting state between 18 and 21, but I've noticed INFPs being very unreliable. I was certainly unreliable, and so were my INFP friends at that time. You know, not turning up to parties on time, not turning up to parties even though you said you would turn up, not turning up to band rehearsal, not turning up to this, not turning up to that. That's definitely the way I was. And I actually experienced this firsthand as a problem from another INFP when I was 26 years old. I'd gone back to university to study film, and I decided to make this short film called Living with Furries, which was about a young man who was living in a house with furries. It was based on a real life experience that one of my friends had, and I decided to turn this into a short film. And I've got to say that I was pretty impressed with myself at the time that, I managed to write the script, I storyboarded it, I got actors on board, I got my line producers, I got all of my cameramen, I got a whole crew together, all to come to my house. I got costumes that I rented of the furry costumes of chickens and rabbits and kangaroos. And when it came to the day of filming, I think I was a pretty good director in some respects, in that I was able to get very good performances out of my actors. And I would actually say that the fact that I was so enthusiastic and so, very INFP in my directing, I was like really getting the actors to enter into the worlds of the characters, and I was very passionate, and I had a good ISTJ line producer to keep everything organized, and the whole day was really, really fun. However, what I didn't realize is I was actually making one of the biggest mistakes that I've ever made in my entire life. That's right, I put my 21-year-old friend, an INFP from Taiwan, in charge of the sound of my film. And the problem was that I was running around loaded up with caffeine and energy drinks, and I think that everything's going fine. And whenever I would see my INFP friend with the microphone and the sound equipment, I just thought to myself, it's that lovely INFP. He's like my friend. He's making me feel soothed. I mean, he turned up on time, which is great, but I remember he kept going into my room and looking at all of the different albums I had, and he started playing Radiohead on my computer. And instead of telling him, like, get back to work, all I'm thinking is, actually, yeah, that is a really good song. And then we start talking about our favorite albums and favorite songs, even though I'm the director of a film that's happening in my house. Now I'm just hanging around with my INFP friend talking about music. And the worst thing was I wasn't even angry at him. I just thought it's nice to have him around because he's making me feel a bit calmer and he's making me forget the high stress situation. And you can see even in the footage here, like, he's having a good time, I'm having a good time, we're all having a good time. But I think you can already see where this is going. I'm making a serious film here about a rabbit who's having sex with a chicken and starts having an angry outburst. And my INFP friend's too busy blowing bubbles and then going back into my room and going on my iTunes and listening to Joy Division and Radiohead. And so what happens was, yes, he does record sound for some of the scenes in this film, so it's all captured quite well. But the problem is that I'd also recorded all of this footage of close-ups and very dramatic shots, and I'd made the actors do this scene over and over again. And a lot of the performances got really good in the later takes when we were doing close-ups. A lot of time and energy was put into this, and by the end of the day, when everyone goes off and I thank everyone, I go back to my room and I plug in the rushes and I look at all the footage we've taken, and I realize that there was no sound taken for any of the close-up shots, meaning pretty much all of it was unusable. And as you can imagine, I was pretty upset when I'm alone at home later that night, realizing that I've lost quite a lot of footage for my short film. That really was a major blow to my production, because I think the film would have come across a lot more artistic and a lot more professional if it had proper close-ups and wasn't just this one static shot, because that's what I had to use in the end. When I finished the film, I had to use this one static shot, and I tried to get around this by saying, it's like realism, it's like a documentary, therefore you don't have as many close-ups. But it really wasn't a good excuse. Like, the film could have looked a lot better and more documentary-like if it had those close-ups. So it was a bit of a disaster in the end. Now, when the film got shown in class, it did go down very well, I think because I had such good actors, and I really felt like a lot of my soul went into this film. But of course, I've got to take some responsibility for this too, because I could have just stepped into my bedroom and said very nicely if you could come and record sound because we were doing another take. But I didn't. I wasn't paying attention. So it wasn't just him, it was me as well. Although looking back, what about that ISTJ who was the line producer? Surely she would have noticed that there was no sound. Maybe it's her fault. Maybe I should blame her. It's always good to blame ISTJs whenever you can. And I think the worst thing is that I didn't even feel any real anger towards him because I didn't know what personality types were at the time, but I sensed that him and I were very similar in many ways. And when he didn't record sound, I thought to myself, oh, that's something I would do without thinking. I do wonder though sometimes, like the actual film that I made, when I put it on YouTube, I got quite a backlash from the furry community who felt like I was making fun of them. And I probably shouldn't have ever put it online because it was quite a. I don't know if you know much about the furry community, but they're very passionate, and to make fun of them is just not a good idea. I don't think I need to tell you why. So maybe that INFP friend was doing me a favor by tanking my film through his unreliability, because if that film did get, any traction at all, I would have been cancelled for making fun of furries, which, I wouldn't wish on my worst enemies. So anyway, that was just a story to illustrate some of the pitfalls when INFPs are not reliable, some of the heartbreak that they can cause. I just don't think that INFPs are naturally reliable apart from their code of ethics and their ability to spot things going wrong. Those are good attributes to them in terms of reliability. But on the other hand, when it comes to actually living in the moment and being able to process a lot of sensory information and to be reliable in that sense, I don't think INFPs have a chance. All they can do is really force themselves to try their best, and usually their their good nature and their spirit can make up for it in the long run, if that makes any sense at all. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments if you're an INFP or not an INFP. And if you're a furry as well, let me know if I've misrepresented you, and I will apologize in a separate video. So anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you next time.